No Rest for the Wicked has had its co-op together update out for a little under a month now, and oh my gosh, I've been having so much fun with it. Now, originally I planned on playing the game when it first came out onto early access. However, me and my brother and one of my mates all decided collectively after we tried the first little bit, it seemed like a great game, but we knew co-op was coming. So we're like, we will just wait until co-op comes. And we did, and we played through the entirety of the story together, only doing little bits and pieces without each other, but no main progression. And it was a whole lot of fun. I streamed a whole bunch of that on Twitch. I'm going to talk a whole bunch about the game in general, but first I'm just going to quickly mention a couple of things. First, I just want to say I've obviously not been streaming or making content anywhere near enough lately. I've had a whole bunch going on in my life, most of it good, some less so. But I'm working on a game with a group of people. It just won an award at a local games exhibition, which is really cool. Very good news for the future of it. I won't talk too much about it right now, and just some other personal shit as well. But oh my gosh, No Rest for the Wicked, absolutely a blast. No Rest for the Wicked is a fast-paced action combat ARPG, like say your Diablo or Path of Exile, but it's kind of pulled back a bit and kind of incorporating some of the Souls formula that gives that really satisfying level of difficulty, as well as just like really big on timing and strategy and how you approach certain encounters. It has really punchy effects, either when you use an ability that just makes an enemy absolutely explode, or sometimes you'll mess up your own timings, you'll panic roll and just get squished as well. But either way, the game is just incredibly fun to play and incredibly satisfying to beat some of those tougher enemies that you've been struggling with for a little while. Now, at the moment, the story is not the longest thing. However, it's pretty damn good regardless. It does feel like it ends kind of abruptly, but that's because it's not complete, and I'm pretty sure the developers have even said that we're looking at maybe less than half the content total at the moment, because it is still early access. But the content that is in the game is really good. You play through the story, you first wake up on the beach with absolutely nothing, and then you work through until you get to the town, and then you start getting to kind of like work on and upgrade the town by providing resources and various other things. One of the really cool things is as you upgrade the town, you start to get better stuff from each of the vendors. They'll sell higher level things as well as have higher level crafting benches, so you can either craft better stuff or be able to make a lot of the resources faster, because you've got to turn like logs into actual planks, or your hides into actual leather to use, as well as like ores into bars and things like that. And then you can fully use them to craft your better gear. On top of that, there's a few utility things just to help you traverse around the town, but not really a big deal. But this was a really cool thing with co-op, at least, is the way it works is it uses like a world state system where pretty much all the quest progression is based on the world, which makes sense when you're kind of aiming to all play together. Obviously, if you want to play at different times, it's not really going to work out as well for you because you'll be in different kind of stages of the game. For the way we played though, we would basically progress all the main story when we're together and do the quests and stuff, and then when the others weren't online, we would either go farm some resources to try and get some town upgrades, which was really cool, or we would just kind of like play around with different weapons and other things, try different builds, or go into the Crucible, which I'll talk about in a little bit, which is a nice little kind of roguelite arena dungeon thing that you can do that basically you progress through, you get stronger, and then you fight a boss. Alrighty, so from here I'm going to show some stuff in game. First off, I'm in the town right now, but I am going to quickly show you the map. So the main campaign, I think I managed to get done in about 15 hours at a steady pace on my second playthrough. The first one was a bit longer, based on when I was playing with both my mate and my brother. And yeah, pretty much you have, this is the whole map. Each kind of section I would estimate, you'd spend a few hours in. Pretty much there is the first section region, which is separated into 3, although they're not very big. Reasonably sized, but yeah, not biggest. Before you reach the town, after you beat the first boss, each kind of section has a boss in it as well. like a main boss. And then you go up to the area up here called the Nameless Pass. It's kind of more a like mine and cliffs and everything, and you got to kind of traverse up and down. You can even see all the different levels that it looks like is here. After doing that, I think the next thing is the Black Trench. Basically, there's some guys hiding out down in the Black Trench. It's a whole sewer area where you got to raise the water to traverse in different ways, and that's pretty cool as well. And you got the Lowland Meadows, which is kind of like farmland into a bit of a forest down the bottom, as well as a like massive logging camp. And a lot of the kind of layout of that is also quite vertical, which is quite cool. And then here, Marin Woods looks kind of small, looks very straightforward. There is basically like a whole forest with like platforms and stuff up in the trees where there's these bird people. And then there's a village here. And yeah, each time you beat one of the bosses, it raises the level of the whole area. So you'll see even the starting area now is level 21 for me. And that's just because, yeah, I've beaten all the bosses in this playthrough. I've played through twice, kind of as I hinted. But the level design is really cool in that it's very much like Dark Souls, where you'll kind of progress through it fairly linearly, but then you'll end up kind of unlocking shortcuts back. For example, here there is a gate that you can only open once you've gone like right up and around over this section, and then even this first section here, there's a ladder up onto this bridge to take you down here, that once you come up here you can lower the ladder down. A lot of kicking ladders down or opening one-sided gates or things like that. Even over here there is like these lifts that take you right down over to the first section. Really kind of cool things like that. And it makes the kind of, as you progress a bit further, just navigating around the areas becomes a lot easier. And what I might quickly do, I might just quickly travel somewhere and we will kill some stuff. Maybe I'll even show an example of boss. Yeah, let's do that. So once you kind of unlock each section, they have kind of like a main whisper, it's called. It's just your fast travel point and your respawn point. The other whispers you can upgrade. You basically just donate items to them to unlock being able to teleport to them. But any of them you can fast travel from. And yeah, you just kind of allows you to do that. You can see that this one I haven't unlocked, for example. Any of the white ones I haven't on this character. But it's quite good. Now, one of the cool things as well, once you beat the campaign, you unlock access to the Crucible, which I mentioned is that roguelike kind of area. I will show that in a bit, but you also unlock access to the Plague System. And I know that in the future, when we have more story, you will still unlock the Plague System at this point in the story. And basically, there will be outbreaks in certain areas, as well as the ability to donate items to cause an outbreak. And the effigy here is one to spawn the boss immediately. And I think that's a really cool system. It's not very fleshed out because it's basically like their just way of getting some sort of end game in. And basically, as you make it harder, you can see that it adds these different modifiers on, as well as different rewards just behind me here. Now, these rewards are not like the biggest thing, so I don't really care too much about a lot of them. I might just chuck on that much, because I like getting this Radiant Ember here, because that's a good way to upgrade gear, which I'll go over in a minute. But my character here is a fairly heavy armor faith-based character. And we got the boss just down here, so that's going to be nice and easy to get to. And basically, I've kind of focused on spell casting and parrying. I even have this bulky shield that gives me focus on block, focus being the resource to cast abilities. And it's pretty powerful. You'll see that I may be out of practice, but basically parrying is very, very strong in this game, which is very cool. Yeah, so wait for the third one, parry that. Oh, I fucked it up. Even the wands can be used to melee with, which is very cool. I do have a heavier weapon that I sometimes use on this, but And the boss got stuck. Don't know why that was. I didn't have any stamina. Very good. These sorts of abilities honestly kind of annoy me. Especially when they use them this many times in a row. Just gonna have to keep stepping around. But yeah, there's a boss. And all those rewards that said I was gonna get from the Outbreak. I just got off the boss there. I'll quickly show off this other weapon I have. This one. This is a unique weapon, which I'll talk about here in a bit. Focused on being as heavy as possible to deal a lot of damage. Now, that's a cool system, and basically that this area now says cleansed in the top left, but basically it's just a thing, so you can't just farm the same area. You got to rotate different areas. Every time you cleanse a different spot, it lowers the cooldown by 20%, I think, the time. So if you're doing like one of them, you need to do 5 others to reset it. Some of them are very quick. I like doing these 3 starter areas. Not only are they lower level, they're also very fast to do. Because the boss is either quite close or there's like less enemies you have to kill to spawn the boss if you're not using those effigies. Because I used the effigy, the boss was here right away. But yes, there's an example of some spellcaster combat. Obviously not the most crazy thing when I'm just blasting from a distance, but it's still good fun. And yeah, the spells are quite satisfying. And I'll even show a clip later of me, the first Plague boss I fought on this character when I just hit Endgame. Was pretty cool. But yes, the Endgame system, not super fleshed out, but look, it's still pretty cool. I'm going to quickly duck back to town. You unlock the ability to have some utility stuff on your character that's not tied to your gear. One of which allows you to fast travel from anywhere, provided you have the focus to do so. Other ones include Blink. You've got a heal that you start with, and then there's an illumination skill that basically gives you a light. The Blink is quite fun if you have the focus for it. You can just kind of move around like that. Alright, I'm now going to talk about gear. So, gear in this is fairly simple. Gear kind of has tiers, so there'll only be like basic starter gear, which can be quite good, that you'll get at the start. But it starts off lower level, and as you progress, you start getting the tier 2 and 3 gear, and you start getting basically the blue, which is the magic gear, and the plagued gear, which plagued is kind of your better stuff, but it always has a downside. There is some ways to offset it though, which is pretty cool. And then there's your uniques here, which have like fixed stats. You can't change the stats at all. The only thing you can do with them is either get new ones for different facets, which is like a implicit modifier that usually has a downside as well as being able to put gems in them. You can upgrade the values on their numbers depending on what those are using one of the crafting things, but I will talk about that in a minute. So, gear in general follows a sort of, I guess, affix system where they're called enchantments, I should say. Basically, a blue piece of gear can have 3 enchantments on it, and a plagued or purple piece of gear can have 5. However, one of them is always a downside. Either you want a downside that doesn't really negatively affect your character, or you need some way to offset it. As an example, I am using these 2 bits of gear that have unrepairable as their downside, but the facet on these is indestructible, which means that the downside doesn't matter, and I basically just get that 4th enchantment for free. The only like actual downside of doing this is I can't get the positive benefit of a facet by doing this combo. Obviously, Jubilee removed is kind of a positive benefit in itself. Rings are fixed, like they're either like plagued or not plagued. You don't craft with them, they just drop as they are, with some of them being very powerful. Gear that is white, like not magic at all, has 4 gem slots. It allows you to really customize them. However, I don't think there's much value in using white gear. I haven't really tried to play around with it. However, it'd be quite funny to get like 48% lifesteal on a weapon, because that's possible. As you can see here, my current weapon has the 12% lifesteal gem. You see it has the 12% lifesteal there in the middle of the screen. This weapon I'm mainly just using for the focus gain because it has a very nice combo that generates a lot of focus, and that's usually if I can parry and then use that, I just get like 100 focus. And in terms of crafting, this is where things kind of get interesting. It's a lot simpler, the crafting system, than something like your Path of Exile or even Diablo, I would say. Basically, no matter whether it's Plagued or Magic, it can only have one of each type of enchantment on it. You can see the little symbols to the left of the enchantment saying what it is. See the damage for each nearby enemy has the damage symbol, and then there is the critical damage, has a little sword thing there, and then damage increase does backstab has its own thing. Basically, that's not part of a category, it's a miscellaneous one. And here you can see we've got an elemental effect, a focus effect, and a defensive effect. And that's kind of across the board on all of them. So here you can see these pants are quite powerful. They have an offensive, a crit, an elemental, all giving bonuses to my damage in some way, and then elemental resist, which is my defensive. It is very, very good. And pretty much, if a item does not have the maximum number of enchantments, you have a bunch of items to modify them. Across the board, you have a bunch of items to modify them. So this, you can either add enchantments to items. I can show it as an example. We'll find one. I don't actually know if I have any that don't have max enchantments. I don't. You know what? This can be I can go full start to finish here. So we have Corrupting Ember, turns an item directly into a Plagued. We have a Void, which turns it back into a common, which is, yeah, if you want to just remove it, reset it, basically. There's not too much reason to do this unless you're trying to craft on a particular facet, but usually you can use Fallen Embers for what you need, because Fallen Embers are the only way to change the downsides of a Plagued item, whereas the Essence Ember, you can transfer upsides from one item to another, which is like the main way I feel to get like a really good gear. Awakening Ember turns from a common into a magical. Now, the Awakening and the Corrupting, I feel their value is not super high because you can go to the Enchanter here in town, and once you're at the Enchanter, you can straight up just pay a small amount of money to open up the enchant menu and enchant it. Boom, it's blue. Obviously, if you want a Plagued item right away, you can use I could use a Void Ember to reset this, which I may do just to show the example. It's got 3 enchantments. Yep. So let's go a Void Ember, which will reset it. There we go. It's back to normal now. And then I can even use the Corrupting. Now, there is a chance that she turns it into a Plagued item right away, but it's not always the case. It's just a chance. Here you can see it's got 4 out of 5 enchantments on it. It has a offensive, a health gain, and it says focus on backstab. That looks like a misc one. It should be a focus one. In any case, there's some spreadsheets showing you what you can and can't roll on each thing, and then you have the downside of the healing reduced for each nearby enemy, and that's the Plague downside. And we can use a Fallen Ember to add a new stat, like this. Durability increased, very cool. And then we can even use the Fallen Ember to re-roll things like this. I don't like it. Increased attack stamina cost, focus cost, things like that. The Essence Ember, which is why I'm holding on to some of my gear, is really good for ripping stats off of things. So I think I have one here that I was keeping, this crit chance 10%. 10% is the highest it can go. I'm gonna grab that 10% off there, and it turns it into this crit chance 10%. So now I can put this onto another piece of gear, specifically Plagued. You can even see that it's Plagued. And the reason that is because non-Plagued gear, you can see I can even pick which one to like roll over. Plagued gear and non-Plagued gear have different stats they can use. So here we go. Now this body armor, which is a indestructible, unrepairable plate. This is for my heavier set that I'm wanting to use. Now has this 10% crit chance on it. My only downside about swapping to this is my current body armor has a very high damage resistance while I'm max stamina, and it's got increased max health. But I might be alright to swap now that I've got a bit more benefit for doing so. And then we have the Radiant Ember. Radiant Ember's up the enchantment effect. I will use that on one of my bits of gear that I need to boost something up. So I think my... you can see it's going from 20 to 35. There's a chance I could, instead of rolling this, I might be able to use an Essence Ember to rip a higher level version off something else. Same with like this armor pen. It's a 0%. I could get a higher armor pen somewhere else and put it on there. You know what, let's just up my elemental resistance on these gloves. That will be nice. Cool, got a bit more elemental resistance. You can even upgrade the stats on the uniques. So this one, for example, is 25 and 10. That started a bit lower, but I've leveled that up, and that's really nice. Instead of the parrying, the more active play, I can sit there blocking with the shield, and it will just generate a lot of focus and deal damage back to the target, which is quite nice. But yes, that kind of covers the basics of crafting, and I feel like that's probably more than I need to explain. The stats system uses something very similar to your Souls games, where you can boost your health, stamina. I'm going to separate these slightly. So health and stamina is kind of obvious. You get health or you get stamina. It's just up to the maximum of those. Focus ups your focus points and focus gain. You can see up the top there, I have 300 focus points and 143% focus gain. So I just get more focus for using abilities, and I have more max. And then equip load ups your weight in the top right there, and that determines what sort of dodge roll you have based on the weight of your armor. The other stats are purely for weapons and the weapon scaling. You will need a minimum amount of stat to use any weapon, and then you get bonuses to the weapons that require those stats. For example, you can see here my weapons use faith, and they're getting this bonus damage from all the faith that I have. Obviously, very, very nice. It's a pretty simple thing, and for the most part, int and faith are caster things. With some exceptions. For example, the big club that I have is considered a faith weapon. This bad boy here. Basically, lore reason, it's like a religious artifact, or it's a plagued thing. This is a fetid club. A lot of the plague stuff is faith-based. Like this faith wand is Lord of the Muck. But the elemental stuff is more int-based. And then obviously strength is big things, dexterity is fast things, and then there's combinations of them for different weapons. That you can find. So you can even see I should have I had this faith sword, spirit edge. I have this intelligence based wand, and we got a dex faith fist weapons, think like a monk sort of setup, that sort of thing. You even have a strength faith there, and then some of the uniques up here with like the dexterity bow, intelligence wand, staff, strength sword, and a strength dexterity spear. That all kind of makes sense there. Alright, so you have the Crucible, which you unlock and you get to enter through this like little portal thing. You kind of just sink into the ground. And when you get into the Crucible, you deal with basically 10 rooms, well, I guess 8 rooms, where you do 4 in a row, and then you get to a vendor. And then you do another 4, and then a boss. And as you kill enemies, you'll see I'm getting this currency over the side here. You also see that I'm playing my other character now. My other character is a dexterity-focused character. Focused a lot more on speed and not casting abilities so much. One of the big things I have is I regain stamina on hit, so using these dual daggers when they hit multiple times is really, really useful. Now with the currency I get from getting kills in the Crucible, you get a bunch of different modifiers. Now this kill streak one is obviously very good here. So you use 45 of this currency, get damage for each kill. And you see as by each one, you get a new one in, and you have the ability to reroll all or reroll a selected one. And once you complete the room, you can move on. Each room just requires you to clear the enemies and get your rewards. And it's a cool little way to test your abilities. Really just like, it's a really nice trial to see how your build is going against, I guess, tougher enemies, because these kind of scale up. The only, I guess, downside of trying your build in here is that because you get all these modifiers, it's not really accurate. You end up dealing a fair bit more damage than you otherwise normally would. Spend more, get the lightning damage, get some increased healing, reduce stamina costs, increased damage resistance. Yeah, very cool. Bunch of modifiers. There's one of the procs going off. And again, that's pretty satisfying, because that's just one of those modifiers. which I think I'm going to increase the chance of. Yep. Very, very cool. And once you reach the 5th floor, you get this room here where you got this NPC guy and a few chests. The NPC not only has some upgrades you can do, either you can cleanse the plague out of your world if you want to reset it, or you can get some upgrades to help you progress through here, one of which allows you to repair your gear in here. The other allows you to access his shop, where you can every day buy new stuff. 2 essence embers is great. Things like that, and it's pretty handy having it here. It's a good spot to check if you're just wanting to see what sort of stuff you might be able to buy. You can find some gear with, you know, stats that you want to rip off with essence embers, or just like actually good gear, or some resources. And this is also where you get the portal for your own house, which I haven't really talked about. The house is basically just a spot for storage, as well as all the crafting benches that you otherwise access through each of the shops. Other than that, it's not like the most important, but it's really handy to have, particularly for storage. Now, something I found with this character, fairly early on, I got this bow, the lacquered bow. It's the unique effects are a little buggy, but the really big thing that I've found with it is it's really powerful with this ring that generates 6% stamina on damage dealt. Because this bow, by default, I have a lower stamina cost one. It uses 17 stamina. It fires 4 arrows, so it actually generates more stamina than it uses. And because it hits so fast, it also procs that echo quite often, the one that's the chance to deal lightning damage when hitting an enemy. So you'll see it do really stupid things in here like that. It honestly feels a bit too strong because its dodge attack is also quite fast. You can do dodge attacks, and I can pretty much maneuver around and just blast things from a distance without having any real danger. I don't like using it too much because it's strong, but it's not satisfying to use, like the daggers that I've been using, or even this fist weapon that has some pretty nice moves. The only thing I don't like about the fist weapon is the dodge attack is quite bad, and because it only hits once, I don't get much stamina back, where the daggers is really good for the stamina I get back. But some of these abilities are quite nice. Being able to do stuff like that is very fun. I find that the twin daggers do not have very good active abilities, where the actual attacks are a lot nicer. There we go. No. There's just an example of me being bad, and that's one of the good things about this game, is that the combat does actually make you think. I wasn't really paying enough attention there. I was too busy thinking about swinging my other weapon and doing the slam without actually, realizing I was just getting hit way too much. One last thing I didn't mention about crafting, you get exalted things. There's one more ember I didn't mention. It's basically once you exalt an item, you can't change it other than resetting it with a void ember, but exalting allows you to get extra stats. So you see these are higher than normal. You can do it up to 4 times. So I have a couple pieces on this character that exalted. We've got extra crit chance, extra fizz resist, extra crit chance, plague damage, elemental resist. Really good stuff. It's for like the top end once you've effectively radiant embered all your stats up to full. But yes, it's very nice. I think that's pretty much gonna be it. I think right at the end, I'll quickly just play a clip of me fighting on my Faith character, the first boss of the game, which is the first boss I fought when I finished the game as a plague boss, one of those outbreak ones. When I went and fought him, it was quite entertaining because I managed, after a while of slamming my face against him, because I was a bit low level for it, I managed to have a very good fight where I was basically just parrying and using the Plague Spider ability. But yes, I will try to make more content. I also want to know, I want some feedback. What sort of content would you want to see? Would you want to see like guides on builds for stuff like this? Would you want to see more like game review type stuff? I don't know. I want feedback. I also want you to be critical of my video. Tell me what I should do better. I have a mate of mine who's doing really good at just like telling me like good and bad of my videos, which is really handy, but he is just one person. I would love to hear more feedback. So I will leave you guys with the quick fight against the boss, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. Check me out on Twitch. I'll probably be doing Helldivers too, fighting the boss Cyberstan with a fucking big sledgehammer. And pretty soon, probably in a week and a half, I'll be back to doing some Path of Exile, because we have the new league coming out for Path of Exile 1, and that should hopefully be very good. We have the reveal next week that I will be doing a live reaction to, and maybe push the video of that. However, I am fully aware that my commentary is not the greatest quite yet. I need to work on it. We'll get there. Anyway, thank you so much. Enjoy the fight. See you guys in the next one. Peace. Nah. Too early. Oh, fuck. How's that for a fucking play? just parries into fucking dunks. I love it. I love it. That is so fucking cool. Holy shit, I have too much stuff.